Avowed is a new action RPG developed by Obsidian, the same developers as such games as The Outer Worlds, Knights of the Old Republic 2, and Pillars of Eternity, which this game's lore and settings take place in. So is the game worth playing? Well, I'll let you know how the game works, the good, the bad, and who I ultimately recommend this to, and who should kind of stay away. So please like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. Let's get started. Avowed is an action fantasy RPG where you take control of a godlike being who was both blessed and cursed by the mysterious life force plaguing the lands. It has the power to both save as well as corrupt, and it's up to you to explore the lands and discover the true nature behind your existence and the fate of the world. Avowed is currently going for $70 US and can be played on Xbox or Steam PC. I played the Steam version using primarily an Xbox controller. I do have a lot to say about how the game is put together as a whole, but let's go over the basics and the core gameplay of the overall loop that you will be expending the majority of your time doing here. You start the game creating a customized character. You can change the body type, colors, the basics. But one interesting feature here is the godlike aesthetic that you will take on. This visual characteristic will define the god that has chosen you. You can hide the feature as they are very prominent, but NPCs will still talk about it every once in a while in dialogues. You can choose your starting class and stats. You can allocate points to a fighter, ranger, or wizard type playstyle with skills pertaining to their strengths. For example, fighters are tankier and can make use of a shield to parry. Rangers can slow down time during charge focus shots, and wizards are able to master various spells like fire, ice, and even poison. Some of the stats you can increase are might, which affects your overall damage and weight limit, dexterity, which is attack and action speed, and wisdom, that increases your mana pool and elemental resistances. The tutorial area teaches you pretty much everything you need to know in the first hour or two: how to control your character, equip, use items, environmental explorations, interactions, and how to fight. You can play in first or third person. You have two sets of weapons you can switch on the fly, like one-handed swords, two-handed hammers, bows, arrows, guns, wands, grimoires, and more. And the other equipment you have are boots, chest plates, arm pieces, and accessories like rings and amulets. To quickly summarize combat, think of it like a faster, updated version of Skyrim. For example, enemies have health, resistances, and can be stunned, pushed around, and you can even stealth attack them. There is localized damage if you're using ranged weapons, so weak spots like headshots can do more damage. There's even damage over time stuff like fire and poison. Your character can run, slide, dodge, jump, use throwables, and command companions to use skills. You yourself use skills that cost mana, have a cooldown, your weapon strikes can be charged for other effects, and besides the class skills, you'll use godlike powers that you'll get throughout the game. After the tutorial, you're thrown into the world to start the story. For the most part, you can do the story and mainline the whole thing, or you can in turn explore the map and do all the side quests and search for adventure and treasure. It's seamless open world, but it's rather than a seamless open world, it's one giant map that contains set level enemies, treasures, secret side quests, and locked off areas for the main quest. As you continue the main quest, you'll have access to more big maps that you can travel back into from. That's the majority of your game loop. You're going to be exploring, story, side quests, looting, fighting, upgrading, shopping, selling, crafting, breaking down stuff, and repeats. All right, so let's move on to the good and bad that I experienced playing Avowed. I'll start with the good. The overall look of the game is colorful, visually great to look at. This is primarily preference, but I would have rather had it be more muted and darker like a Skyrim, for example, but I guess we'll have to wait for Elder Scrolls 6 for that. The story is easy to follow, even if you aren't into the Pillars of Eternity lore. I've heard that if you are familiar with the lore, then you'll love all of the in-depth and extra world building Avowed has to offer. I'll admit though, besides the literal main story, which was average in my opinion, the rest of the side quests and characters were average to a little boring. Another good thing is there's a lot of loot in this game, and I mean a lot, a ton. You are really incentivized to parkour, jump around, open chests, and fight a bunch of optional enemies. You're going to need a lot of money in this game later on. Crafting and materials, you need a bunch too. But there's also unique equipments. There are a lot, so it's worth obtaining. They completely have the potential to change your playstyle when combined just right. Another thing is the overall combat feels just a bit above average. This is probably the game's best selling point for me if you were to ask what's the best thing about the game. If you're not that into the lore, at least you have free reign to explore and fight a lot. Okay, let's go into the stuff I disliked or I thought was kind of odd. Now remember, some of the stuff is opinion, but some stuff I'm going to give you a reasoning on why. Okay, so let's start with straight out the bat. The game just overall feels very safe and very vanilla. There's something off about it. Like, they decided to make this grand RPG that would appeal to everyone, but tried to include everything that they think an RPG should have. Sometimes it's implemented well, and sometimes you're thinking to yourself, why did they even spend time putting this mechanic in the game? I will of course give you some examples. The big one here that just didn't need to be in the game at all is the weight system. Okay, so basically your character has a weight limit, right? And if you are over encumbered, then you can't run. Basic stuff you see in RPGs. However, in Avowed, the only items that actually have a weight value are weapons and chest pieces. Your other equipment like bracers, rings, and amulets don't. Your crafting resources and tons of consumables that you have don't either. If you're ever even close to being overweight, you can break down in your inventory all of your non-wanted weapons and chest pieces at will just by opening it up. Even if you wanted to keep some equipment for later, you can in the same inventory at a press of a button. Just send it to your camp's stash. This makes it so the weight system is literally moot, as you can always fast travel as well, except in dungeons, to sell things. But you can even, without repercussions, just break things down for materials, which you'd want to do anyway in order to upgrade your stuff, or just send them to camp to think about using for later. This is just one example of a system that feels shoehorned in. Like, the developers saw what successful RPGs do and just checked it off in order to implement it. It has no bearing on how you play the game positively or negatively. I want to think, for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, another RPG that was just released. The weight system there actually affects your build, as every piece of equipment has weight value. Being over encumbered makes it so you move slower. You can't fast travel. This forces the player to pick and choose what to keep for later, utilize their horse's inventory space, and overall feels like a system that is supposed to be intertwined in the gameplay, unlike Avowed. You might think I'm being a little nitpicky here, but to be honest, if a system didn't need to be in the game like the weight system, they shouldn't have implemented it in the first place at all. They could have put more effort and resources into their core mechanics. Another example of a useless mechanic is the lock picking system, or lack thereof. In Avowed, the lock picking here boils down to nothing more than holding down a button to open up a chest. It's a glorified key. You're simply just locked out of a chest unless you have the specific amount of lockpicks in your inventory. There is no mini game that ups the tension on whether or not you're able to use your skills to break the lock. Hopefully you might not run out of lockpick. It's just a key. And once again, this should have been implemented as a key instead of a lockpick, because that's all it's there for. It's so dumb. You can just buy as many lockpicks as you want from stores, and even the random chests that do require lockpicks, their loot isn't as rare and unique as other random chests that you'll find around the world. Another example of, oh, this is a system RPG players like, let's add this in. Except here it's done lazily and without real reason. There's quite a lot of examples like this in my opinion, but I'll give you one more that is really core to the game's experience, and that's the character progression. It feels really shallow, the amount of customization your character truly has. I said that you can spec into a fighter, rogue, or wizard, right? All of your choices feel very lackluster. You'd think putting more stats into dexterity would increase your bow or gun damage. Nope, it increases all attack speed and actions for everything. The might stat literally affects overall damage for everything, including spells, and the weight limit, which we already talked about how useless that mechanic is. So the stat allocation RPG mechanic here sucks, and it doesn't feel like you're building a character at all. Most of the damage you're going to do is tied to equipment and weapons. So, as a wizard, if I find a good, rare, unique gun, I'm probably going to use it and drop my wand. Just cast spells and shoot around and, switch over to a sword if it comes to it. There are no requirements for wearing any of the loots in the game. Swords, shields, bows. You can just wear anything you want. So, there's no commitment to also allocating skills and stats because you can easily respec just from your menu, just as easy as you can, throw stuff into your party stash. It takes away from player uniqueness and choices. As I said, it feels like they're playing it super freaking safe. From Obsidian, I expected way more RPG decisions that feel like I'm creating a unique character over the time of the playthrough, because you are a nameless person that you create. You name the character, you customize them, but instead it just feels like I'm picking up and playing with whatever new toy they throw my way and disregarding the class or playstyle I chose from the beginning of the game. It also takes away replayability value as well. Going through the game, playing as a rogue. Okay, next time I'm going to go play as a warrior. I'll go as a wizard, etc. You get the idea, right? There's so many things in this game that just feel off. You never know what they truly wanted to implement, as from the beginning of the game, because it was essential, whatever was essential to their vision, or if it was just a checkmark of mechanics that rated well in RPG games that I feel like a committee just said, you must, put this in there. People like it. I want to also quick fire some other thoughts and gripes I have with Avowed. The choices and dialogues don't really matter. The starting class you pick, as well as your minimum points in might or perception, for example, unlock new responses that your character has in conversations with NPCs. This leads nowhere. Your character doesn't really talk. The NPCs just react with one unique line. Then they continue with their set dialogue. Everyone else will read it. It doesn't change the course of anything. There are small choices in quests that matter for a reward, but that's pretty much it. The performance, I'll be quite honest, is pretty shit. There's so many threads on Reddit talking about how bad it is. I thought I was the only one, but no, it's a lot of people. I'm running a 4090 card and a really powerful CPU, but the game insists on using as much CPU power as possible instead. The game runs fine outside of towns, but in them, you'll see stuttering up the ass. Speaking of cities, they are fine, but kind of empty. There's lots of NPCs, but you can't really talk to them unless they have side quests. Merchants are there, which is nice. Towns have a lot of loot, and you'll be platforming a lot, so I guess that's a plus. There's no crime system in this game. It feels weird that you can literally just take food, money, potions, and weapons from stores and people's houses from all over the place. NPCs just don't care. You can't attack NPCs either, but with everything I've talked about so far, I guess this is fine. I'd rather not have them implement a crime system than include a half-assed version of it like Cyberpunk did when it first launched. I said combat was fine, but I really dislike the dodge system, or rather how it's implemented control-wise. To dodge, you must hold left, right, or back, then press the jump button. While this is okay, mostly in combat, it's really annoying when trying to actually platform with precision outside of combat, which the game highly incentivizes you to do. I'd rather much have the dodge button be a dedicated button. For example, the crouch button on controller, which is the B button. All for the crouch button? That the crouch should have been moved to like L3 or something. But that's also run. I want to mention quickly the map too. It's well done, nice to look at, and the minimap is decent with points of interest and gather points that are easy to see. But why? Why is there no option to mark the map with custom points? In a game where you have treasures locked without lockpicks, can you not mark to come back later? Or maybe mark a secret you can't figure out? It seems like an oversight. Alright guys, to sum up, Avowed is a game that comes off as decent at the beginning, but if you've played enough RPGs, it will soon come off as some kind of hodgepodge of the best hits of RPG mechanics. Some work, some don't, and some you wonder why they even spent time and resources adding in the first place. The combat is passable, the world building and lore, while simple, will cater to the hardcore Pillars of Eternity fans. This is a game that I think most people, if they do pick up and play, will enjoy. For Avowed, I think it will come down to expectations. If you are searching for the next best RPG that combines, you know, AAA action and meaningful decisions, then you'll be disappointed. I'd recommend this game for players who want a high quality modern RPG that plays it safe. You won't find anything to particularly hate, but I'm not sure if it will leave a lasting impression on you after you finish your playthrough. So there you go. I would play it on a sale or at no extra cost if you have it on a Game Pass. Go in with low expectations and I think you won't go wrong. So that's it guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And if you guys are interested in watching my playthrough of Avowed, link in the description to my Let's Play channel, Mabivsgames 2, where you can see all the parts that I upload. Anything I stream and review, it'll be over there so you guys can see for yourself. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Avowed down below. What did you agree? What did you disagree with? Maybe I missed something to particularly talk about that's, you know, on the back of your mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I can't believe they're dead. It's over.
I don't know why, but that wasn't that engaging, was it?